we are here. We're getting ready. Okay, not. Okay. Sorry for the loudness of that mic. But hello. Excuse me. Hopefully, I was gonna go to the gas station, but it's like looking to be really hot. Maybe next weekend. Okay. So let's continue. We are teenagers. Hello, hello. Okay, you can hear me. La, la, da, 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 da. It is winter now, I guess. But we are teenagers. It's been a few years. Last time, the character we have and Q had crushes on each other. So let's see how that goes. Winter was a world of its own. The place you known has gone to sleep. Mom wished more than once that people could hibernate until spring. That's boring. Until spring, they should hibernate during summer. Get an extra rest and it's not so hot. That's what I think. Until spring, like bears did. Snow up on the mountain was worse than anything else in the state. It took hold of you whenever you went outside, trying to tug your shoes straight off your feet. That season, the cul-de-sac kids got rides to and from school. Q's mom and Granny both took turns. They would take you in the morning and get you again in the afternoon. Well, on lucky days, Miss Lynn would be the one who came at the end of the day. Sometimes your mom could do it. But then that one time there was been a huge misunderstanding, and the person who pulled up in front of your school was Mr. Ballman. What a nightmare. The ballet recital thing happened. Q stole the whole show. No one else could follow along. It was like the other dancers had been told what's gonna happen next. Maybe they hadn't been. It seems like Q made some of those moves up. The other Mr. and Mrs. Ballman came to visit for the first time for their daughter's favorite holiday, Christmas. Her parents showed up in Golden Grove with bags over their shoulders and glasses on their face. Tamara looked just like them, and she looked miserable. They left after 2 New Years, only those two. Tamara didn't go with her mom and dad. She stayed with her Omi and Opa. So that year wasn't anything new. You graduated elementary school. I like the new thing. Mom, Mom brought you to the diner table to celebrate after your first day of middle school, like she always did. The two of you eventually reached regular status at the establishment. It helped that Yusuf, the friendly manager, became the new owner when the original retired. He recognized you and Mom from the beginning. He might have not been next door, but you couldn't help getting to know Yusuf as much as you could know an adult anyway. Days and weeks and months, the time took a rest on your shoulder and they kept coming. A couple more years, you weren't even a kid anymore. You emerged from a pile of torn off calendars as a teenager. Add one extra year, you graduated again. Are we going to be like 16? At 14 years old, you were about to begin high school. Life might have changed rapidly for you, but it seems like once you start in certain points of being old, stuff stayed consistent much longer. Mom and Mr. Lynn had the same job. Mr. Ballman kept on being retired, and Mrs. and Mr. Ballman continued to pretend he was retired while he was working on the side. But that wasn't the only way to go. Miss Lynn had new opportunities ahead. While her only child prepared for ninth grade, she was getting ready to rejoin the workforce. You met brand new people as you got older and limits. Your life faded. Serenity, Veronica, and many other schoolmates. Gentle or polite? Polite. Samek's social circle expanded too. You could fill several novels with memories of a little girl in your neighborhood on her own, with you or Q, and both of you. As she was still around, Tamak had a lot more to consider these days than if she should be in a backyard or forest clearing. There was also people you didn't meet. The infamous boys club disbanded long ago. Oh, Keelan, Ren Murray, and Baxter Ward, and you. Ren by... Oh, that's Darren, right? Ren went by Ren only, and had for a year. Calling him by his full name was strange. Not even Ren's parents did that. The relationship between Q and Ren was another thread of history. Sometimes it was tense, sometimes it slacked, but it had yet to snap. It was different when it came to Baxter. The shared friendship with him ended. Officially, he dyed his dark hair gray to pure black and stopped coming around for a while. The age gap between him and the rest of you was chasm that couldn't be crossed anymore. Q didn't remember the last time Baxter had been on Acorn Road. It was heartbreaking. After the group disbanded, when Q was no longer the boy who led the club named after trait, Q began to realize something. They weren't a boy. Q wasn't sure what they identified, but they could definitely say that wasn't that. For now, all the people needed to know not to call them anything gendered. Oh shit. The news spread around the entire town ahead of the school coming into session. Summer vacations didn't last forever. Day of sunshine grew short and cold. Gray clouds gathered onto the horizon, and fall settled over Golden Grove once again. The storybook description of autumn went to the very root of the forest and the heart of the town, as a whole land glistened in namesake color. It's been nearly 4 years to this day since we moved here into the tan house with the white picket fence at the center of the cul-de-sac. Trees grew taller and thicker. Mom got a chair for the porch, and the mailbox had to be replaced after an incident. Or driving. But other than that, not much has changed with the outside of your home. One might say the building was worse for wear after nearly 1,500 extra days of weathering element, but for now, for how old it already was when you got there, that was nothing. Nothing for a house pushing 40 anyway. 4 years of your life was closing in on the third of your existence. That first third you could safely remember since you were a baby, then a toddler for most of it. That worked out nearly half of the memories you made and kept were from right here in this house, in this neighborhood, in this town. You lived this one place longer than anywhere else. That you could be somewhere other than Golden Grove for all this time made you shudder more than the coldest of autumn nights. You realized, even at 10 years old, that feeling had settled over you like a comfy blanket since the first fall. This place was called home. Damn, we're not gonna... You've been down each path, been taken along down this path and road, seeing every bush and trees, enter all the publicly accessible and some not technically public buildings 100 times. There was something indescribable, precious about that, but couldn't be replicated. Though you didn't mean the world was static, there were shifts that rippled out and impacted your experience, but each one felt natural. The transition of seasons brought about an entire different atmosphere. Those were sights and sounds and feelings, and that could only happen during a few months before they were gone for a year. The other familiarities were lost for good, never to come back, but instead for their absence to eventually become old in their own right. You knew the acorns were beginning to fall along the leaves, and that Bob's barber shop on the main street closed 8 months ago. That every day was a brand new rumor on what was going to replace it. Nothing concrete has been announced, but any day now for sure. Mrs. Bauman was stubbornly convinced that it'd be a restaurant, an Italian restaurant. The town needed one of those, she would insist. Yeah, that was less about what she thought would actually happen, more what she wished would happen. Circumstances were never as perfectly straightforward as stuff that was the same, and things that were different, or what you could be certain of, and what you were believing in. You could have had a piece of your world that had been ever present, something that hasn't gone away for a moment, yet right before your eyes. It could stop being what you originally known. For example, that came to your mind that you've been imagining from the beginning was your left and right door neighbors. Both you and Tamarack were the same people you seen basically every day for 4 years. No single of those days did you decide they weren't Tamarack and Q anymore. Of course, they were literally who they were. Oh, they got a new name? But after everything they learned and seen, and from the basic concept of beginning order, the two were pulled into a certain direction, little by little. It couldn't be caught looking back a week or a month. Still, if you pause to remember from your first meeting and compared that to who you were expecting to encounter that day, you could see it clearly, starkly. They had changed. First childhood playmate, Miss Tamarack Bauman, she became a young lady. Her reckless romps through the woods shifted into quiet nature walks. Neat clothes she carefully selected weren't suited for that kind of exploring, and she was not okay with them giving full holds like she was as a kid. She approached most things in life with delicacy, like she was living on top, living in a world of glass, or less whimsical, as if she was always walking on eggshells. Tamarack joined the music program during middle school and had played cello over the years, since a feature that required plenty of patience and tons of sitting around. But those new options, priorities, and decisions, he didn't speak to any decision didn't speak for any level of decisiveness on her part. It wasn't as just a loss of pure wild abandon. Only someone too young to know better could have. Tamarack didn't have a shred of certainty she used to. Some days, in some ways, she could come across more almost like her 17 year-old 70-year-old grandparents, that a girl was not even quarter their age. Then other moments she leaned into the typical teen priority more than anyone else in her class. Neither seemed to make particularly confident. What bits and pieces were truly Tamarack, maybe all of them, maybe none of them, she had managed to convince most of people that there was a clear picture that they could accept and understand her. Probably because she didn't understand herself, or she couldn't bring herself to commit what she did now. So failures, and yet to blend into the harmony of this close-knit community. If Tamarack was in the room, odds were good she'd be the least acquaintance person there. Wherever she was, Miss Bauman carried herself with the presence of a visitor, never a regular. No, we're not choosing. I don't care. done. But one certain, at least she could count on you. You could do the same with her. But you didn't care what the town thought. Tamara wasn't a nobody in your eyes. She was a little girl who threw that paper airplane at you the first time she ever caught sight of you. Tamara and you went through being newcomers side by side. No matter how much the two of you grew up, your promise to be friends remained unbroken. Together, you'd make it through whatever future unknown you might face. Because you're more than neighbors with someone, you will get to make an extra choice about your relationship, whether or not you're comfortable with the automatic physical interaction. Okay. Up, up. Now the second of the companion of your youth is Lin. They didn't introduce themselves like that to people anymore. Whether they were a person to spell their name or not wasn't their problem. If someone didn't know that, then they didn't know Q. Why should they care what a stranger believes about them? The only part of them made sure to spell out their pronouns. They, them. Q was born and raised in Golden Grove, a local through and through, but not merely a kid in town. They were one to take the center stage, the one to reach out. Q made themselves ever so present in their minds and heart of the community. No matter what Q said or did, each person they crossed paths would be familiar with them as the gender they were assigned at birth. Q wasn't sure what they identified with, but they could say it definitely wasn't that. If they wanted to be free of that misconception, Q had no choice other than to keep explaining again and again, person to person. They hated it. Going through introducing themselves in a way that so people wouldn't immediately get it, could still put things together was cute and everything when they were in elementary school. As a ninth grader, it was embarrassing. A lot of what Q believed in as a kid seemed to be just now kid stuff. And the tippity top of their list of childless ideas was the concept of trying. Q stopped putting effort in their classes. They started skipping ballet class lessons, and they did not go out of their way to make people feel welcome. Understandable if no one's wanting to just really listen to you. Then it's like, why should I? Now they rebuffed nearly everyone who dared to wish for time in their present. If Q didn't already like someone, 0 opportunities would be given for that opportunity to change. Despite going from the most approachable face in town to completely unavailable, Q remained exceedingly popular at school. That chill that overtook their demeanor only to make them cooler, apparently. I'll just do this. precious. EDQ, accepting, authorizing, could we do best friends too, or can that not be it? What does doting mean?
Here's the definition of doting: extremely and uncritically fond of someone, adoring.
Done. Okay. But that drama was nothing to you. If you didn't want to go above and beyond to be friends with everyone in the world, then they shouldn't have to. They could be snippier, they could be more sarcastic, so what? Q meant a lot to you. They always had, ever since you were 10. Q made you feel like you mattered from the start, and that hadn't faded, even when they got closed themselves off to people more and more. You done what you could to be someone fair, beyond a fair weather acquaintance for them, and that was the that what made them more. That's what made them such a meaningful existence in your world. You were head over heels for them. Should I say that? Yes. You have never said it. I might, but you haven't either. But that doesn't mean it wasn't true, and that it was for them. I wish they kind of like had a thing like, oh, yeah, well, maybe they do, and I could have done that, but Hugh had never said as much, but you hadn't either. That doesn't mean that it wasn't true, and it was for you and them. You were positive. Hugh was happy, huh? Then why don't we just let them do their own? Step 2! Finally! 30 minutes! We're saving. We are not doing that over again. Anyway, that's the sinking further into your psyche than you should. You decided while shaking yourself out of the daze. You're at home sitting on a lumpy chair that tried its best to be a shade other than tan, which it was. It needed a good comment to call itself cream orange or pale yellow. The building creaked without anybody doing anything, a ticking and talking and tapped on the back of your head. The place you lived was sort of the third member of its sweet family. It had its own way of being long-time quirks and still taking after parent and sister it received. In the time the house a human. In the house you lived there, you added a few of your own nicks and scratches to the house. Some old furniture was replaced with brand new furniture from the local antique store and thrift shop. The wall clock was from a former warmer, and the lamp was found at the latter. Q said once you can tell the difference between what was sold in those places, it was ancient either way. However, the gap in the quality between the two was easy for you to see. Your wandering gaze went down towards the decorative branches in the vase, a cold fire of brown red leaves, another sign of autumn. From there, you kept going until your focus was finally back to what you were doing. The tabletop piled with books, packets, and pencils and stuff. It was magically all had to fit in a single bag, plus leave room for such. You had begun packing for school tomorrow. It wasn't a normal day of school. It was the first day, and it wasn't a normal start of a new year either. This was ninth grade. You were a high school freshman. Mom impressed upon what you would call an accomplishment. If the learning system was triathlon, you were out of the water, off a bike, and lining up to begin the race. Your mom wasn't especially sporty herself, but she offered an alternative that if this is a movie or a book, the third act would be just beginning. That was the best part. For as much as Mom typed it up, your transition into the highest level of public school wasn't as immense as it was for other 14-year-olds. You've been attending River Peak since grade 6 already with its gold, black, and navy official colors. The loved freshwater autumn mascot. The district, Golden Grove, was small enough that middle school and high school shared a building. You felt good. You noticed a 20-page schedule between two textbooks, hoping it wouldn't completely crumble. The beginning of class wasn't the only special occasion happening tomorrow. Golden Grove's middle and at the same time high school started slightly different than its elementary school did. This semester, your first day at school shared the same date as your anniversary of moving here. It had been 3 years and 364 days since your life had become what it is. Then there was a girl in the house to let you know that you had company. Mom came out from the kitchen. Oh, look at her. She kept some distance, staying under the open arch of the room, gave the side of her light-washed jeans a pat. Her shirt was a fall floral blouse. Ironically, she looked as fresh as a spring bloom. Good morning. Mama let her hair get longer. Lately, besides a trim every few months, it just got to keep growing. That was new. Though, she still wore real opals wherever she went. Right now, she was having a necklace moment. The stone hanging from her neck looked newly pried off from the mine shaft. No perfect teardrop shape or flawless angle. It was natural. Thinking of her, who she was as a person, and who she was to you, felt and her were still the sweet duo taking life on as a team. The fact that had truly gotten truer as time went since you got old enough to be an actual help to her. It was cool. You never jumped to go on mom dad activities, but there was a mutual understanding between you and her that kept the peace as much as possible. Quick question, if you're going to get your own cell phone, what would you want? I wish I got a cell phone when I was a kid, but then I'm kind of glad because, a cell phone. You never had a phone in your entire existence. And the same age neighbor already did. You got their phone at 11 as soon as they were in middle school. It saved Mrs. and Mr. Lynn a bunch of hassle from all the people who called their house or their own cell phones to ask about Q. Though these days, Q ignored practically every call they got, including from their parents. Send it in a text if you want a response. It was their way of life. Understandable. If it's important, call. And then text, say, hey, can I call you? Emergency, pick up. Karen's mom and dad bought her one when she was 13. Officially a teenager, with a sore spot in the Bauman family. Mrs. Bauman, the elder, didn't think that gadget was necessary. They're more of a distraction than anything else, she declared long enough for the whole neighborhood to hear. This town was small and safe. She was wondering what the younger Mrs. and Mr. Bauman thought could even happen. After her husband reminded Miss Bauman that Tamarac's main way of communication with her parents were over a telephone line, the fighting stopped. Mama, you'll finally be able to text your friends, she chuckled. I'm thrilled that you're excited. I've been saving up. Phones get pricier every 6 months. And then there's monthly fees, so on. Mom didn't expand the so on, steadily pushing her hand in front of her. Her daughter knew the value of dollars already. You never had a chance not to. But you're in high school now. You should have a phone. High school, that was a sweet family's milestone for gifting their young ones with a phone. Each household on the street had different answers for the same thing. Of course, I'm taking you to the store with me. I'm not going to choose it for you. I'd have to sneak out of work a bit early for this, so we need to go to the next town over to get the best selection. I want this done before tomorrow. Wait. How early is early? I'm seeing Q and Tamarack today. It can't wait for some other time either. Tamarack had been pins and needles waiting to talk to her parents before the start of the school year. She wouldn't so much as look at her phone until you were there. And Q haven't left their houses for days. You had to go over and check on them. Don't worry, that doesn't mean you gotta flake out on seeing your friend. I know you want to see them. Yay! I'll swing by around to pick you up. Late afternoon, early evening, thereabout. You'll have time for it all. Okay, it's gonna be a busy day. Thank you, dear. She appreciated it heartily. Take care. You too. Have a good day at work. You waved your mom off with a wide arc of your arm. Bye. Fluffing your arms all the way high. She threw on a yellow cardigan and the most vibrant piece of clothing in her entire wardrobe, and went out the front door. You couldn't hang around much longer yourself. With a whirlwind of emotions, you shoved your supplies into your bags. You knew what you had to do. You had a schedule. You and Tamrock weren't going to be casually be in the same place at the same time. You wish, but no. Over the years, you learned how to balance seeing both of your friends. You tossed first. Soon as you packed your pack morphed into a balloon compressed of knowledge and years worth of reading, and pens and things forced into a single spot, the zipper string to keep it all in. You knocked on top and felt like a solid mass against your knuckle. Well, you'd worried about how you would carry it later. You left it there and left the house. It was cold, obviously cold. That didn't stop you. You were focused on your mission, pressing ahead step by step. You cut across the line, you went through the gate, and stood inside the cul-de-sac. From there you headed right. The reddish porch of the Lynn stopped number 1. You reached in front of their house and rang the bell. Nothing happened at first. There wasn't an instant reaction you get from Miss Bauman, but a chance for a prompt adult-like response passed by too. You were left waiting longer than somebody normally had to stand. You had no idea what to expect. This could take a few seconds or a few minutes. Your gaze wandered. It landed on the rows of shuttle stretched across the ground. They came from a railing that were exactly like bars of a jail cell. Come on, come on. Someone has to answer, right? You had to get in there. You had to see Q. And the door moved. You immediately straightened your back. On the other side was Mr. Lynn. He hadn't left for the day, and you were guessing he had some real estate stating he had to do this afternoon. He did have a coat on. He kind of looked like a biker jacket. He was kind of a biker, just not a motorcycler. Mr. King kept it only half zipped up to show his professional button-down shirt and tie combo underneath. This is definitely the man to talk to about buying something that costs hundreds and thousands of dollars. Just look how his glasses matched his eyes and the way he put his hand confidently on his hip. Oh, we can go for our instead. Mr. Lynn opened his lips next to you to show a grin behind them. Hey, Taylor, thanks for taking the time to come over. Now you're a visitor. Our charming Hugh won't mind. He chuckled quietly through a cloud of concern, put an end to the sunny mood he started with. The Lynn's parents had been totally shut out by their teen. They had to rely on the neighbor's kid completely. You were their only lifeline left. Not even Ren was for sure thing these days. But she wanted to see Q whether they asked for that or not. Come in, please. Don't let me hold you up. Thank you. Ooh, look at the house. Cool. Mr. Lynn moved aside. You passed through the door. Your host followed after, but you got in ahead of him after a few steps. Just head up to their room. You know where it is. I'll be right here. You didn't stop walking. You didn't want to stay there. It was hard to explain this, the way a space could stay so much the same, but still so different. Their living room didn't decide to get spotlessly tidy yesterday because it knew there'd be a guest. It was always like that. But the house didn't feel nice or neat anymore. Somehow it seemed sharp, stiff, and uninviting. Every time your feet touched the floor, you braced yourself for a crack of eggshell. At the top of the stairs, you got in a different kind of joke. You weren't there alone anymore. Miss Lynn stood in front of Q's room, facing directly towards you. It is good to see you. She had a simple dress, brown from the top up. Her slippers were white. You didn't have to check out a window to see autumn was here. Miss Lynn displayed the seasons in action. Her hair, her dark blue hair, was pulled back into a bun that took even more colors away from her. Though the hairstyle did make the earrings stand out, gold leaves with purple stones, she worn those for years. Focusing on her that closely, you noticed her mouth pulled into a faint smile. I've been knocking. Miss Lynn twisted around to touch the door again. She stared at the wall between her and her child. That must have been exactly how she felt before she heard someone coming. Q hasn't answered, but they would if they knew you were here. Speaking at the plank of wood, she stopped talking to you. Q, your friend is here. She will be coming in. You leaned in, ears perked. It was dead silent. Still, Miss Lynn backed away. That was the most the mom could do. She kept that smile for you. You can stay as long as you like. Then she vanished down the way you came. Oh, you can hit on the mom too, damn. You took Miss Lynn's place in front of the door, the unmoving door, the door with not a single sound coming through. You twisted your fingers together. You'd done this before. You could visit Q's room, and Miss Lynn said you were going to do it. So, first you knocked. You didn't think they answered to you. You just wanted to be polite. Q? I'm actually here. I'd like to come in. You twisted the handle, then pushed the door open. It didn't go smoothly. The frame wasn't warped like your bedroom. Something was blocking the other side. Okay, Q hadn't been spending their time in their cleaning. Not a surprise. It was a mess. Q's personal space was the only part of the Lynn house that had permission to fall to pieces. Oh, this is a nice room. The room was perfectly for a game of I Spy. Your eyes were overwhelmed with the amount of stuff in front of them. Trying to pick out any specific thing would take complete focus. The center of all of this was Q themselves. You waded through a shallow sea of abandoned clothes and forgotten note pages. You didn't have to imagine the eggshells anymore. One wrong step and you crunch something for real. Standing at the side of the bed, you tilted your head straight down. Lynn, you made it. They laid on their stomachs, face flat against the mattress, feeling prompt on the pillows. Like their dad, Q had a jacket on, unlike Mr. Lin. That wasn't a sign that they were going someplace. Q hadn't been outside in 100 hours or something, and you bet they had their blue plaid on that whole time. The edge of their brown hair mingled with the firm trim of their hood. Q chopped a lot of that length in middle school. Under the mixed fox fur, the thin masses of hair, you could see the glint of silver. Q's ears were pierced. They had a pair of sharp, dangled earrings on. The pair of skinny jeans stuck out from the bottom of their oversized coat. Q didn't go as far as wearing shoes in bed. They just had socks on. Seeing Q from below was something you were used to for years. Q was the tall one in town, now seemed to be high schooler. They turned out to be an average-sized team. But you were a short kid and you were still a short teenager. Q kept multiplying inches over you. We can make a new name. Q. Should it be just Q? No. Oh, what should we? No. Q. I don't know why, but should it be just a letter Q? Yeah, it was Q. A lone moon escaped from between Q's lips and the mattress they were pressed up against on. It went on and on until they didn't have any air in their chest. It was a greeting or a cry for help. One of those. I'm too late. Q's dead. I'm not dead yet. Didn't you hear my groan of agony? I'd be out of my misery if I was dead. Oh, that's good. And they twisted their head onto the side. Half of Q's face appeared. Half of their mouth was pulled into a smirk. You didn't need to see the other side to tell that much. The spark in their eye made it clear. Hi. Your insides cranked the heat up to 11,000. I'm glad you came over. I'm glad you came over. I've been so busy getting ready for tomorrow and everything. They've been prepping for tomorrow mysteriously. You couldn't believe that. My will is almost finished. Okay, Qlin, you knew that they were dead. I knew you were dead, and I told you not yet. Duh. Fluttering their eyes closed, Q kicked their legs through the air. They grinned sweet as they could be. Taylor, I'm leaving you my notebook and whatever pages you can find. Their feet froze mid-arc and the bed squeaked and Q's eyes opened again. Burn them. Oh, you know I will. I'll toast s'mores over the flame in your honor. Q continued to lay there, making a real show of being on their deathbed. They spoke to you gently as if they might be their last words. No! Thanks. Which it wasn't, because nothing's wrong with them. To prove that, they popped their thumbs straight up. Don't tell my parents you're here. Don't be freaking trying to do that. Your friend faded right in front of you. It wasn't an act anymore. Q pressed their face into the blankets again. High school is a death sentence. The teacher should fail me now and save everybody the trouble. No, we aren't doing that. Is that why you aren't coming out of your room? If I never go anywhere ever, then my parents can't be surprised that I don't go out to school tomorrow either. I figured I should help them get used to it before the big day. And maybe if I do it long enough, people will forget I'm here. I'm not gonna forget you. Okay, yeah, you can do that. Q's face moved their face off the bed again. They needed a deep breath. You don't have to stand there, sit down. It was on the very edge, mattress sank down with your weight pressed onto a few inches of space. Q hadn't left much room for anywhere else. Q kept staring at you below. It made you feel pinned down. How was that physically possible? They shrugged, using a single shoulder. That was enough. No way would Mom and Dad let me skip school to stay in my room, even though I'm not stupid for real. You're not stupid at all. You don't have to pretend. Listen, my real plan is that I'm gonna move into my other room tomorrow and live there instead. Pretty clever? So they're worried about me being in here. That's when I leave the house. They'll just be glad about it. They never see phase 2 coming. She pressed her hands into the blanket and lifted themselves up with the effort of having done 1,000 push-ups. You bobbed high and low on the bed while Q got comfortable in a different way. They sat cross-legged. Your face, aww, they look pretty. Your faces were a lot closer, but they weren't looking at you. You stared through a window, the one overlooking their backyard. In the distance was a child fortress amongst the trees. Could that protect them? I don't want anyone out there. I don't want to be anyone. I don't feel like I'm anyone. They hid their hands between their knotted legs. Q head and back bowed forward. They were under a weight no one could see, but that couldn't mean it was fake. Expectations were very real. What about you? Do you get it? Have you figured it out? You've never been through what Q's been dealing with since you lived here, since your whole life hadn't stopped living how people thought you would always. Sometimes I don't know if I do have it figured out. I'll forget it, Taylor. You don't have to worry about that. They reached over your shoulder to tap your shoulder. At least we can lean on each other, right? Except for tomorrow, 'cause I'm not going to school. You both laughed. They kept looking at you. Q's eyes didn't flaunt how dead inside they were anymore. Suddenly they were alive. Okay, Q was up to something. Hey, I gotta give you something. Q unwrapped their arms, then untwisting their legs, they hopped on off the bed, wandering towards their desk. They grabbed their most recent notebook. Q has gone through a lot in the time you've known him, no matter how much. Are we getting Q's diary or journal? No matter how much Q loved one, it never survived more than half a year. But the notebook was a similar part of what they were, keeper of Q's important reminders. The notebook they relied on changed sizes and style over the year as Q themselves did. This one wasn't falling apart at the seams yet. It was packed with tabs and bookmarks and other paper-sized things Q wanted to keep track of. The notebook was too big to fit in any pocket, so they kept it in their room and tossed it into their school bag before going out, as if they didn't end up in their bags, then oh well. Q flipped to a random page and started scribbling away with the so they also scrounged up from the desk. Completely hunched over their work, they wrote a super speed. You leaned in hoping to get a peek, but that fluffy hood kept getting in the way. Then Q stopped. They tucked the pencil behind one ear. Momentary silence was ended with a cringy loud tear. Q held the piece of paper high. They spun around and presented it towards you. Their page was bone white, divided by blue lines printed across it. The words it had to say were, "Oh, is it going to be like the old times?" Happy 4 years moving away anniversary from Q Lynn, actually. Happy 4th anniversary from Q Lynn, actually. The message was surrounded by Q's signature, stars with no lines in the middle. Plus they dotted a few eyes with hearts. It was so cute. You remembered! Q's arms flopped to their sides. They walked around their room aimlessly. They kicked their legs out with each step, barely bending their knees. Yeah, I figured you like that. You're welcome. They brushed their hair around their ears, cocking their head. Doing all that knocked the pencil out. It clattered on the ground. Q pretended that didn't happen. They kept snickering. Somehow they were still smooth, even when they really shouldn't be. Your grip on the note shifted. The paper was thin, crisp, and if you weren't careful, you'd get a cut. You folded it half once and then twice. Then it became a neatly compressed square that fit in your pocket. You put it away. All right, that was a good time to go. Tamrock needed you too. You found your voice. Q, I gotta leave now. Bye. Should I tell your mom I said hi? If you want to see me later, you can find where to find me. It wasn't a challenge, it was a statement. You could do that. You left Q alone and shut the door behind you. Mr. and Mrs. Lynn were together in the living room waiting. When you hit, do I have to tell them? When you hit the stair landing, they looked at you. Neither of them asked how it went, but you could see hope in their faces. They hadn't realized or couldn't accept that he was already doing well as they could be right now, which wasn't amazing. You could magically solve all their problems. Couldn't magically solve all their problems, even though they sometimes still called you a sorcerer. All you could do was be there for a little while and help them forget about it. Given a strange smile, you returned to the cul-de-sac, and the rest of your day, they didn't try to stop you. That's good. Don't do that. You marched right through the center of the road, passing your home, reaching the other side. For a second time you came to stand in front of a neighbor's house, you rang the bell. An answer came immediately. Coming, coming, hold your horses. A series of thumps followed the shout. You wrapped your arms around yourself, waiting. The door swung open. Wafts of perfume and long worn-out breath escaped through the opening. The trip down the main hall got longer every year, as the woman in front of you would swear. Such a cool old lady. Or whatever. She's dressed as glamorously as ever, with a poofy blouse and statement belt buckle, that golden double loop acting as her anchor. She always needed something to keep her grounded. Besides, Granny could never be too old to get dolled up. It didn't matter, her knees didn't work the way it used to be, and the last hint of blonde had faded from her hair. She also had chopped the ends off several months ago. The split end had gotten out of control, though her hair had been so long. Removing inches left plenty. Pure white strands framed muted red eyes. Granny leaned her cheek into the dorm frame. She shared a smile for a hello. I didn't know you and Tamara had planned, but that's good. Perfect timing. I told Opal repeatedly how lucky she was to have a kind-hearted child. I'd say the same for Tamara. Lord knows there's trouble rabble-rousers out there that... She stopped herself and shook her head. The ribby bit of her shirt flapped like a flag of surrender. That doesn't matter. You're not here for me to talk your ear off. You're here for your friend. Tamara is in the backyard of all things. I suggest you go around the house. That'll get you to her. It'll work. It may or may not be simpler than going through the front door and out the back, but it'll work. Have a good day, Angel. Grady shut the door behind her. You turned the other way and hopped off the porch. We're saving. The common backyard, huh? You saw it all the time out the windows and from your own yard, but it's been ages since you've stepped foot there. You didn't because Tamara didn't. How awkward would that be if you went into her yard by yourself? Had gone over every inch of the patch of the earth 100 times. There's no magic left to find. She outgrown her childhood playground like a growing tree in a too small pot. You shimmied in between their mailboxes and bushes guarding your house. Mom kept those trimmed. They weren't as wild as when you moved in. They didn't mean they were small and you weren't a kid anymore. Leaves tickled your chin as you passed by the branches, brushed your chest. Your house was psyching you up for the day. You got through the gap, rounded the house, the corner, and a narrow path opened onto the edge of the far-reaching forest. The lines between the woods and the backyard was clear. Mr. and Mrs. Bauman made sure that the land that they were paying for stayed up in tip-top form. It didn't matter that the people living there only enjoyed its beauty maybe a couple times a month. What if the guests saw their grass with a less than flawless form? That concern for others didn't mean they were going to replace perfectly good patio furniture. It had been 4 years and they still had the same tables and chairs. And you bet money those were already old when the first time you saw it. There was something new there. A bag sat nicely on the tabletop. Tamrock's childhood messenger bag had joined the Bauman's collection of antiques that were to be seen, not touched, before it fell apart completely. The pretty pack could hold up just as much as the original. It was also mostly brown again. The strap of the top flap, the bottom support were all there. But the center was pastel pink. Miss Bauman got it for her lovely young granddaughter, and she assured everyone that Mr. Bauman helped. You shifted your focus over to the bag's owner. Tamrock sat motionlessly on the tie swing her parents had made to her. She had her arms wrapped around the rope, tied in a bow. The tip of the pink boot dragged against the ground. That's where she was staring too, at the dirt. Her heavy bangs covered a third of her face. A ribbon delicately hung onto the side of her head. Tamrock's hair has gotten so long, she's pretty much always kept those coppery gold threads containing a braid. She hadn't bothered to put a coat on. A purple knitted sweater over some lacy trimmed shirt was enough. Tamrock. It seemed like this was a glassless day. Wide frames rested against her nose. When Tamrock had to get braces, she insisted on having contacts too. She could not live with both of those at the same time. But Tamrock didn't like wearing contacts either. Contacts were only worth the annoyance if she was going somewhere with lots of people. You walked over to the rock pathway. She heard you coming. Tamrock glanced up. Tamrock's tense features couldn't stop a smile from spreading over her cheek. Tata! Tamrock! She lurched forward in a burst of motion, reaching out towards you. The tire she dangled on swung with that energy. You went over before she could fall further away than where she began. Tamrock kept rocking. She looked brighter and brighter each time she passed you. You made it. Her braid floated in the breeze. Of course I did. Are you ready to talk to your parents? She nodded, her jaw set firmly. I'm gonna call my mom. I'll do it fast. Mr. and Mrs. Ballman, the younger, you met them. They wanted to see Tamarack's friends for the first time they visited. Tamarack gripped the rope hard, narrow eyebrows shoved, her eyes nearly closed. Tamarack plucked her naturally bushy eyebrows. We have enough to worry about already. High school starting tomorrow. Who knows what Mom might be trying to bring up if I had called by myself. Her words came out frazzled and emphasized in a bunch of different places. Then she sighed. Tamarack unpeeled one of her tightened fists, adjusted to crook of her arm to make sure she didn't fall out of the tire. Thanks for letting me drag you into this. Tamarack sighed again. Her head drifted lower and lower until her chin rested against the rubber. Despite the unsteady of her position, she was now secure. You gave her the okay. You were here for her. It made her grin, a real grin, with her lips parted and everything. Oh, ever since Tamarack had those braces put on, she never smiled with her teeth. You knew how self-conscious she was about them, but the rule went away when it was safely just you two. But Taylor, she rolled her face over, squishing a cheek onto the groove of the tire. No effort was being expended. My phone is in the bag over there. Leggings don't have pocket. She kicked towards the table 10 feet away. The swing weakly twirled her around. Tamarack attempted to keep eye contact with you during the spin. Could you get it for me so I don't have to climb out of this thing, please? That's right, you can see because you're special. Oh, that was actually sweet of her. But the fun is right on top. Don't dig around in there. Dang, so much for being extra special. Tamarack stayed sitting pretty while you fetched her needed tool. If Grandy's phone was the green drawing room chair, the tire swing was Tamarack's. You you undid the flap of her bag, itching for the reveal. Inside was a smudge-free smartphone. The screen winked at you with a glint of light. It was ready to be collected. You grabbed it. In seconds you needed to lift the phone and close the bag. You took stock of Tamarack's stuff. A lip gloss, hair bands, her wallet tucked into a side pocket, while a white box, probably first aid kit. There was an open bag of something from the corner store tucked in the corner. It could have been chips or cookies. You couldn't make out the logo. Dang, nothing juicy. Hey, come in. You pulled yourself away from the table and passed Tamarack her phone. Thank you. Tamarack scrolled across the screen. Then she typed. She put her phone to her ear and waited. She has the stickers. It rang repeatedly. Miss Bowman, not Gertie, didn't answer. She had anyway. Tamarack's face was suddenly covered with a stiff mask of the real thing. If that wasn't enough of a clue, she started talking. Hi, Mom. Thank you for doing this. Taylor's here. We've been hanging out. Tamarack stuck her phone in your face. Any closer, your nose would have ended the call for her. Hello. See? Miss Bowman and Tamarack wasn't alone. She would never be on her own as long as you could help it. My mom says hello to you. Mm-hmm. So your role in this ended. You were done what you could do. The rest was on Tamrock. She bobbed her head while you listened to a general pleasant replies. Yep, that's right. Don't worry. She could say for the new year check-in. The big day of class hadn't happened yet. Tomorrow she could be perfect, could be a perfect afternoon, or she could be trapped in a bush and miss the entire thing. From the side of the conversation, you got to hear her mom never strayed from safe subject of school, which there was less even to discuss. The closer Tamara got to getting wrapping this up, the higher her pitch got. I love you, tell Dad I love him too. Bye. Tamara tapped the red button on her screen with a thumb. Then she collapsed over the tire like it was that one painting that melted clocks. The teachers and YouTubers liked the show. Tamara's limbs were practically dripping off her. Seeing her way that way was wrong. She looked so out of place. You couldn't help but to pause there and acknowledge how wonderful it was that Tamara was still here. Living with her only an empowerment was meant to be temporary, and it had already been nearly half the decade. Her parents kept in touch and they visited, sometimes more, sometimes less. That inconsistency means there's never really a sense of normalcy around them, no matter how many months went by. As soon as things were calm enough that you thought Tamara was going to be in Golden Glocks forever, her parents would be so re-involved. It was almost as if they'd be packing her bags any day. You lived with a thorn stuck in your chest, that one dug in deeper with each passing season, no matter what. Every so often, got jabbed with the unexpected. Maybe that had something to do why Tamara came across like an outsider. People were holding their breath around her, bracing whenever it wouldn't be a false alarm for when she'd be gone. You knew for sure that Tamara struggled with seeing her own presence in that light. She told you about this. How much longer would Tamara Bowman be living right next door? Slowly, Tamara disentangled herself from the tire swing, one leg coming after the other, not letting go of the rope too soon. Nobody wanted to get hurt right now. The swing did as much as it was made to do, swing, but Tamara got on her feet. The first thing she did with her freedom was return the phone to her bag. She stood with you back to you, staring at her cell phone for any sudden movements. Her parents would never call back. They wouldn't text so soon after the chat either, but what if they did? But they didn't. Tamara twisted her head to side. You couldn't see her face again, part of it at least. The few inches that were covered by her hair or shoulder or weren't completely impossible to make out from your point of view. She smiled. That was enough. We did it. Nice work, Tamara. You too, returned Mrs. Bowman. The parents, you just could separate the Mrs. and Mr. Bowman. You knew from the ones you barely see by calling them Dr. Bowman 1 and Dr. Bowman 2. Tamara's mom and dad were both PhD holders and researchers. They mentioned they were in the process of getting that when you met. At this point, they had gotten their degree. They could ruin your life if they ever felt like it. They were already making things hard because you had to dislike Tamarik's own parents. You didn't ask to feel that way about people important to her. This wasn't on purpose. You just couldn't stop. Tamarik tugged at the end of her shirt. You've been quiet for a while. Oh! She made a beeline for the swing. Tamarik darted behind it and held it with both hands. She pushed it towards to you. It was the second time she'd done that. Here, you can have a turn. It doesn't have to be just me who uses it. Tamarik wielded the tire like it was a steering wheel for her life, like it somehow controlled your future too. Or I could push you. She leered at you over the tire. I could spin you. Spinning the tire swing. What a wild child. Now let me push you. No, I came up with this first. You can't steal my idea. Yeah, push me. Okay, yeah. She kept her hold strong. I got it. Get in. You climbed on the top with your legs dangling over the edge. You took Tamarik's place in the throne. It was a great fit. That was kind of amazing. It was made for a child. The only reason your feet didn't hit the ground because you were short. Great. Tamarik walked backwards, bringing the swing, and you with her. Gradually, you rose higher, and she took you as far as her arms could reach. Here it comes. Then launched the tire forward like you were an oversized baseball. Huh! You went into free fall until the rope caught you on the other hand. The tire brought you home to Tamarik. Her hands made contact with the rubber. She used both of her arms to shove you again. Your world tilted and swayed. Your stomach dipped further than the rest of your body. A thrill went through you every time you felt another push. Ooh! For a moment you were above it all, completely out of reach. The breeze filled your ears until a hollow thump did. The swing stopped dead. Tamarik hooked her arm through the center. You held tight to the swing. Tamarik took the hit, but you were the one who got jolted. She didn't budge. Sorry. Following her sudden line brought your attention to the house. The back door had opened. Standing in the doorway, framed like a life-size vintage photo, was Mr. Bauman. Hello. He gave the tip of the hat to you, the exact same he had 4 years ago, and his jacket hadn't been replaced either. The vest and pants were set he wore came from a thrift store. Even that part of the outfit wasn't newly made. Mr. Bauman family picked it out for him, blue to make his eyes pop. Older people loved their old things, and that was never truer than Tamarik's grandfather. He was a true constant, a boulder that withstood the erosion of time. His hair couldn't get any whiter, his wrinkles couldn't get any deeper, right? He already reached elderliness. When you met, what you saw in front of you was the finished version of him. Mr. Bauman wouldn't have changed a single thing for the rest of his life if he didn't have a wife or a granddaughter who made him do it sometimes in little ways. Mr. Bauman climbed down the miniature set of stairs into the backyard, breaking one knee with his hand and taking a step half steps half at a time. He put his both feet at the same level before going down to the next. Mr. Bauman suddenly built. That made the risk of accidents more troublesome. If he fell, he'd fall hard. How did the call go? Termites Cave met you. It wasn't much of a call. They had been her call a few minutes of small talk with a friend on standby to make certain it never went past that. Termites summed the mess up nicely without a shout. Good. Should I go or just go? Awkward silence. Good, I'll leave you to it. Nice to see you, Taylor. Mr. Bauman replayed his motion. A lift of his hat and a slow journey over the stairs. The boards groaned as he ascended the steps. Then he closed the door behind him. Tamara rocked her world when she pounced. Her eyes burned bright. Ready to go higher? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. With you and Tamara in the tire swing, time flew by, and you did get your turn to be the pusher as Tamara got into the swing again. But eventually the light around you changed. Tamara's backyard then became tinted orange, and the sun was starting to set. Your mom had said she'd be there in the evening early than normal. Got back from work. You can stay there forever. Tamara waved you off in the back of the seat and backside of the neighborhood and got left behind you. Thank you. Is that the end? Oh no. Well, I guess the stream died. I really want to play more. It said it was going to do 3 and 4, 2. Continue. Oh shit. Okay. Skip. Turn back. Skip. Hit. Skip. Skip. Nice work. There. Skip. Save. Yes. Turmeric, I'm gonna leave now. Bye. Huh? You jerked the chin away. The chin towards that way. You're leaving? Okay. So you wiggled out of the swing. It was fun while it lasted. Bye. Good day. And that's all well, that's it. So, thank you guys for watching. I can't wait for this whole game to come out. They have other games too, like kind of like this, but different towns and stuff. But I really like this. I really want to play this again. Thank you guys for watching. Type exclamation point Discord to join my Discord. Exclamation point and NFL for more information. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll figure out something else to play. Thank you. Bye.